Welcome to SHOWstudio. It's Milan Fashion Week and it's our first discussion of Milan, and we're going to be talking about Gucci, so things are going to get very Italian and exciting. I've got an amazing set of panellists here with me to unpick what's going on at the House of Gucci, it's hard to say, this season, but I'll let you guys introduce yourselves to kick things off, starting with you, Grace.
I hate this bit. I'm Grace Woodward, stylist, fashion commentator and shop owner.
I'm Gianluca Longo, Italian, so I'm very happy to be commenting on the Gucci show. And I'm a stylist, a writer sometimes, and normally I love to observe fashion, what's going on there.
I'm Bertie Brandes, I'm a journalist, and I'm also I'm contributing feature editor at ID.
I can't not go to you first after you made the I'm Italian claim. And I do want to, as it's our first panel of Milan Fashion Week, but also as we're talking about Gucci, just ask you about Italian style. And for you, I mean, does Gucci kind of summarise Italian style?
It does, it does. And I must say, this is my first time in 15 years that I'm not being at the Gucci show. You know, normally opens, you know, Milan Fashion Week, and it's so, you know, it really stamps, you know, the beginning of Milan Fashion Week. When you come out, you know, after New York, and then you've been in London to see so many creativity, so many colors, so everyone has got individuality, and then you arrive in Milan, straight from the airport, going straight to the Gucci. It's a completely different world. Super sleek, super sexy. There is always something new, a bit of bourgeois mixed in there. Gucci is the epitome of Italian fashion from you know, from the 60s, from the 70s. It's you know, there's always something there. Sometimes a bit more sexy than others, but you know, we always love to be there and to see what's happening there. And then let's see today if Frida's gonna show actually.
We do. It's interesting you use the word sexy a lot of times there, and I'm interested to get sort of Grace and Bertie, your opinion on this, because it feels like sexiness isn't really that fashionable at the moment, but then if it is a pillar of what's happening in Milan consistently.
Well, if you took the clothes from the collections, they could definitely be sexy. A lot of the stuff that we've seen has been sexy, but I think in the way that it's presented, often the sexiness has bled out of it, which is a real shame. But this has been happening in fashion for decades. Just depends on the context.
I mean, for me, Gucci defines luxury, and that's their modus operandi. They want to be a luxury house. They want to be. It was always meant to be expensive, and I think that whether or not whatever's going on in London, that you know, the woman who buys expensive clothes doesn't want to look trashy. She always presents herself in such a way, and sexy tends to come with the Gucci buyer. So that's why I think there's always a version of what's going on within the other trends of wherever we are in the season. There's a nod to that. There's always you know, a defining look for the season, but the sexy thing comes to please their buyer, and I think the buyer very much wants to look sexy and rich, basically.
Yeah, but I also think that, you know, associating, and even by saying that, associating sexy with Gucci is very much a heritage that Tom Ford left, because you know, before Tom Ford, actually Gucci was very bourgeois, was a proper Italian lady who, you know, who goes to shopping with, you know, a beautiful peacoat and, you know, the double-breasted golden buttons. But then, you know, with Tom Ford, you know, he was all revolutionizing it. I mean, when he first started, you know, his first collection for Gucci was, you know, lace, you know, again, sexiness and a lot of translucent, a lot of see-through and sheer. And then maybe that, you know, he was there for 10 years, guys, let's not forget. So it's very much created this new idea of Gucci, like a Gucci woman, a proper sexy woman, and Frida, to be honest, is continuing. But I mean, it keeps that message, don't you think?
What I would say is Tom Ford created the vamp Gucci, whereas Frida has very much turned it more into a feminine. But I think that I think Italian in our heads is a sexy thing. Yes. Being Italian, you know, all of that, kind of the lifestyle, the food, the passion. You know, you say the same as Dolce & Gabbana, there's a sexy thing going on. Frida's last collection was it wasn't about sexiness, it was about a sort of ingenue, the kind of, it actually was, whereas very short, but it was still not like vampy.
But by major surprise, I remember being there last, where month are we now? September? No,
February.
Okay, we was in February, sorry, I'm a bit, you know.
Fashion season, you don't
fashion season, it's one big thing. And I remember I was there sitting on the show, and I saw the leopard print coats and that kind of prim looks, and I just said, oh, this is a change. So maybe it's a new era at Gucci that we will see today. Actually, I can't wait.
Can we talk a bit about Tom Ford, because I'm interested that you mentioned him, and as we were saying before we went live, you're completely correct that I think he defined how a lot of us see Gucci and defined that kind of sexy code that we associate with it. What do you think about what Tom Ford did in London? Just because while we're talking Gucci, let's chat about it. Bertie, what do you think?
I'm not in love with it. I don't know, maybe this is a point of contention. I know you feel the same.
Yeah, I was really surprised. I genuinely look forward to the opulence and usually quite bonkersness that is Tom Ford, because it's a fantasy of and how he started with the private shows and the amazing women of all ages and all sizes. Okay, they're all mega famous, but I love that. And then you see this, the mega thin, I'm going to say, kind of a bit boring clothes that don't really fit properly. That bugs me. That's the thing that bugged me the most. It's just like, if you're going to do this, make it amazing. But I'm just a bit like,
I think instead, of course, it was again, as people say, sex on legs, and we saw a lot of legs and a lot of sex on that. Even the little nipple coverings, that was very much like a proper defined message. But I suppose from when he started Tom Ford as his own collection to now, I think he's maybe driven by his customers. Maybe his customers, they telling him exactly what they want to buy more. Imagine it's a small brand. Tom Ford itself. He's got his own shops everywhere. It's open, and they're opening many more shops. Maybe that's what his customers want. And there were a lot of customers at the show.
Is that scary? When I was talking to another journalist about this yesterday, and I kind of said that I think there's always an element of responding to a demand, but then when a demand is something that presents, I don't know, women in a way that is so kind of like objectified, it worries me that's kind of that fashion becomes commercial to the point where you do just respond to a.
I feel it looked like Saint Laurent of the last couple of seasons. That's what I was really surprised about. Now, whether that's a pressure because Saint Laurent is selling so well, apparently.
I don't agree that Tom's actually follows what the others are doing and what sells best, to be honest. It's very much like he's enclosed in his own little world. Every season he does whatever he thinks he does, maybe in the bath, and that's what he defines. I don't think he looks around at what's happening and then he's never followed. And I must say, I think this show was very much an homage to his all the years at Gucci. When I saw those big trousers, the lame trousers with the big flare, the super big flares, that reminded very much of his very first years at Gucci.
Did you love what he did at Gucci?
I used to be a big fan of his, to be honest. It was, first of all, you break in, there was a new message in Milan fashion, that was Tom Ford for Gucci, and we were all very happy to have it. At the end of the day, as you know, Milan is very business oriented, and some of the clothes that you see on the catwalks, it's like being on like on a rail. So it's a clothes, business. Apart from Prada and Dolce & Gabbana and a few others, and Marni. So Tom Ford really defined Milan fashion with Gucci. So, and I actually loved him. Yeah.
Do you like it, Bertie? I'm interested because it's not aesthetic I would associate with.
I just think it lacked some of the humour or maybe self-awareness that was definitely in the previous Tom Ford collection. This one just felt a bit too, or like maybe there was kind of humour there, but when it's the humour of like streetwalkers, that just makes me like kind of a bit repulsed. Like it feels like if there is humour there, it's very cliched.
And did you like what he was doing at Gucci for? Because there was definitely that irreverence and humour.
It felt more mature and glamorous. This to me doesn't feel necessarily particularly glamorous.
And is that our taste changing, do you think?
That could be. Maybe. That's a great point. That's a really good point. The extent that we no longer kind of go, well, I accept that because that's fashion.
You're right. I think actually I never think about it, but it is our people's and customer the taste is changing. Maybe they want something to be more disposable, more out there. It's just okay. I want to look sexy. Let's go for a super mini skirt where I can see the, how do you call the hem of the stocking?
Yeah, we do.
And that bit, and then you go for it.
Garter? Not really.
I could just polish mine and
stocking
then
tops, exactly. So if it's that yeah, we'll see. You know, we'll see
But
how many we'll see
and
next
that's a
season.
styling thing, which may or may have not been translated.
And a
badly.
casting thing.
Yeah. That I always felt like Tom Ford went for the Uber woman, and this just wasn't. There was just not that kind of joie de vivre that you get from those kind of women and those kind of clothes.
But I do think there was a period in fashion where this idea of like, oh, you can be really smart and successful but still super sexy in an obvious way. Everyone was really excited by that. And going back to the taste changing, I feel like now people are like, yeah, so what? Like, I think that kind of idea of a powerful, sexy woman, it's kind of, that in itself feels like a trope now. You know, it doesn't feel kind of interesting to do that anymore. In the same way also that doing the kind of kooky, awkward woman wearing a strange jacket.
Well, I'm really glad you didn't put trainers on the catwalk. That's all I can say.
Well,
that would have been like the end.
But why do you think his kind of...
Actually, it would have worked beautifully.
It would have worked. It would
Yeah,
have worked. And their legs would have looked less
Yes,
like.
it would have been fun. It would have been a
spindly.
bit, you know, a bit more modern, a bit more streety.
Yeah,
no?
that's
Maybe
probably
more.
true. Well, tell Korean
probably
bad
wouldn't have
styling.
You know what would be nice to see again, when you're talking about, you know, the powerful woman and Korean sex, a bit of return of the 80s, very much like a proper return of the 80s, the sexiness with the big shoulders and a big low V-necks.
That's what he
and
did
that's
with
what
his
it would be
photo.
amazing.
We're
But
getting to
missing a
that,
bit
I
of
think, though.
Don't
That
you
will
think?
come. I feel like that is the natural progression from all of this. There's been so much 70s,
Yeah.
and it has to mature. And that would be really nice, you're right.
You know, really much at the Melanie Griffith of the situation. That was fantastic.
Why do you think that his kind of ghost looms so prominently still at Gucci? Because I know how pivotal he was there, and maybe it's obvious given what we were saying about how he's really
Does
defined
it
the house.
though?
I think that I feel really sorry for Frida because I feel like every profile you read on her it mentions Tom Ford. Even now, she's been there as long as he was, you know. And
Yeah,
it's,
she has. But I think that it's basically, I think that the work she's done outside of just what happens on the catwalk,
Yeah.
with creating the art collaborations, the museum, all of that sort of stuff is
And
actually
the charity.
She does
event.
so
yeah,
much
exactly,
charity, yeah.
exactly.
Amazing what
Is,
Frida's done.
is actually, that's her mark, that it's shouting about it in its own way. It's not just what goes on the catwalk. And so I think that the legacy, maybe it's not the legacy of Tom, it's just the Gucci look now. What she's created is something completely different, a philanthropic brand.
But the problem is, do you think the fashion press are quite lazy? Because I often feel like that's underreported. You see it in the major profiles.
It's not a great
Well, you
story.
wouldn't, but you wouldn't
Yeah.
report
You're
it in
gonna-
a catwalk show because it's
Yeah.
not relevant.
Yeah.
So because that's how they keep Gucci in the press all year round, because otherwise it's just 2 lots of press a year.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, you said she's not a great story. Yeah.
No, this kind of, like the Gucci charity is obviously brilliant, but it's not that sexy of a story, and you can't really report it that much. You can report events
Yeah.
and like what celebrities were there, but otherwise it's quite difficult to sort of shoehorn it in.
Unless they decided to shoehorn it in. For example, there are more interesting things going on around with street casting. Mina Kershaw, the guy we were talking about before, who got all of her friends in her collection. You know, it would
Molly
be-
Goddard.
Yeah.
Shout out to Molly Goddard. That was
Yeah,
the
there you
best.
go.
So good. I loved it.
Which is not I know it's not a particularly Milan thing to do, it's a very London thing to do, but Com did it, you know, that would really be the thing that would maybe shake that off, the Uber models, all of that sort of stuff, if they, and there's some new news obviously this season, and Kate Moss has been fronting the campaigns, which is a bit odd in my opinion. It's a bit like, why now?
Let's talk about styling, because as you said, you know, they've shaken up the styling this time. They're working with a different stylist. Let's just talk about the importance of styling to a show. Because Bertie, you work as a stylist, so do you, Gianluca? Tell me about, because you worked on the shows this season. You worked on.
We did the Ryan Lowe presentation.
Yeah.
I guess good styling is just all about working really, really closely with the designer when it comes to a show, and it's about not imposing yourself too much, but being there to kind of just give little tweaks, or like maybe bring it back, tone it down a bit is always good.
Yeah.
But yeah, just not sort of breathe too heavily over the collection.
That's interesting. Do you agree that they have not breathed too?
In a way, yes, but also you have to consider that, for example, I know a lot of stylists who work on London shows, and you know, maybe sometimes the same stylists who work on Milan shows or Paris, and you know, they've got a completely different take. At the end of the day, While in London, the collaboration between a designer and a stylist is very much a creative moment, and it's almost like let's have fun together. Let's go for it. Katie Grant for Giles, or Jacob K for Christopher Kane.
Yeah.
While the same people, if you move them to Milan or to Paris, sometimes designers or brands call these stylists to improve, maybe because they haven't sold enough bags, so they want the stylist to use more bags on the catwalk, or maybe they need to improve the certain, to have more coats on the catwalk. It's very much like they're helping as a proper fashion editor rather than a creative moment.
Yeah.
Consider that when you go to Gucci or when you go to Prada or to any other big brands, you enter these big rooms before they edit for the show. There are like hundreds of looks, hundreds and hundreds of coats, 55 different shape of trousers and whatever. So very much like the stylist is called to edit everything for the catwalk for a commercial reason. That's it. That's what I think is the difference. But a stylist helps the designer to designers and the creative teams. They've been banging the heads on the walls for 6 months to create some looks, and you need a fresh take. You need someone to come out fresh from the outside, said, okay guys, what is this, and to see.
Well, a great example of that is what Lucinda Chambers does at Marni, which I think obviously works so well. It's a fresh eye.
It's a fresh eye.
It's the difference between it's creating the woman for that season. So a stylist will be the alchemist between the hair, the makeup, the casting, and the clothes to bring them all together to then create the woman for that season. And that's why I see that the stylist is, as a fashion editor would, because you're creating the image.
The image, yes. I mean, you also help, for the hair and makeup, giving very much like a look, discussing. So, the creative process, it can be as easy as difficult at the same time. You have something in mind at the beginning of a collection. You have all your creative team to sketches, let's say a 60s inspired, whatever. But then, it can be so outdated. If you don't have someone who's been seeing all the other collection, breathing what's happening in the world. That's the intake and the input of a stylist should have. So,
what do we think about the rise of the super stylist? Because we've seen that a lot. It was interesting when you were mentioning some of those examples that you cited, where the stylist is almost as big as the designer, and you see that. I think that's happening quite a little bit with J.W. Anderson and Benjamin Bruno. It's really seen as a partnership. Do we kind of love that in a way? Is it great that the stylist is being celebrated?
As 3 stylists sitting here, I don't think you're going to get a no.
Exactly. I mean, of course it does. And you can see, many times, we go to certain shows, and for example, today we'll never know what is going to happen. This Gucci with Frida, maybe she's got a new stylist, or maybe she's got no stylist at all. And sometimes you go to a certain show and just said, oh, that looks different, and then you check the credit list and I said, oh, because they changed stylist. And it's very much like sometimes designers rely so much, especially these days when designers are pushed to do like 10, 12 collections a year, and to do the public appearances at the department stores in America.
They're meant to be celebrities.
They're meant to be celebrities, and sometimes they don't even have the time to just to be there and concentrate on collections. That's why sometimes having someone there to as a stylist to support them, it's good. I mean, look at the relationship between Nicolas Ghesquière and Maria-Amélie Sauvet. I mean, they couldn't work. Nicolas couldn't work without her. And was a Balenciaga then and Louis Vuitton now. And it's
a trusted. It's a trusted soundboard, and it's really important because otherwise designers are working with their own heads, and a stylist is qualified to be that shrink, if you like, to be their creative psychologist, because they've got that background. That's what they're trained in. So I think it's a super important relationship, and I do think that. Oh, is this it?
Oh yes. My God!
Sorry. And I do think they should get that credit.
Okay, here we go. Gold buttons.
Yeah, it's interesting what you're saying about
gold buttons.
But I like it when she does.
Oh my God, is it trousers?
Yeah,
trousers skirt. I love
culottes,
that.
guys, culottes.
Yes. In Italian, we have an expression, say gonna portafogli, means it's a skirt, but also like trousers, like a wallet. Gonna portafogli, like a wallet
gonna
skirt.
portafogli.
Or a
this is very Gucci.
A skort, as we say.
Also quite glamorous.
Exactly.
Yes.
Oh, I'm loving this. This is very Gucci.
Retro.
Even the logo is
I just exactly what it is. It's so retro.
But that's why I thought last season was great, because it was so retro.
I think it was the beginning, and she's continuing on that. Look, even the red and green stripe.
Yeah,
perfect.
exactly.
Really good boots as well. They're great.
Yeah.
It always crashes when the model gets to there and then continues. Very odd.
I love the little details of the
scarf, one of their absolute
and
signatures.
the beautiful horse beat. Horsebeat.
Yes.
Horsebeat.
Yeah.
Bracelet. That is kind of again.
And that lace up.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Really beautiful.
It's very signature.
But I think it's quite
Very
funny as well
signature
because I think
Gucci,
there's
and it's also very close to the cruise collection, right?
yeah.
The
very much
trousers,
so.
you know, the high trouser with the band.
But I always think there's a real
That's gorgeous.
there's a playfulness, I think, when brands cite themselves really, really well.
Yeah.
You know, it always feels
That's
funny,
nice.
which I know sounds like an odd word because it's not a funny collection, but there's always that kind of
Oh my
humour
god,
of knowing
this
what
is
to
so
pull out.
Gucci,
Isn't it?
I
Yeah.
mean, the printed silk blouse and the
But
sweat
in a
trousers.
way, you know, isn't that what you want? Rather than do just another brand doing
Yeah.
another sexy
Yeah.
piece
And you
of
know what, I
clothing.
think that's when last season we were surprised to see the new Gucci, the old Gucci. Maybe it was a winner things. And then this is working for me.
What type of women do you think this is for? Not to steal your
No, good.
but I'm sort of
I think we always have to consider how much this stuff actually costs.
Yeah.
You know, and I think
Love
It's
the
incredibly
bag.
moneyed.
yeah, and so you know, in a way that kind of denim piece, so it's the Stella McCartney kind of Chloe. You know, it's that woman who's got a lot of money, but and has got a lifestyle. This is, you know, we're not kind of joking around here.
I want to see the show.
oh that looks
Oh, I
like a
want to
really
see
good
that.
Yeah, that looked
Oh,
good.
I love the denim.
There we go. It's interesting, there's a quote that she gave about the children's wear when she started it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I always think about this when I'm thinking about the Gucci woman, where she
Which is
said, I always want to respect the kids, but she was like, the little girls want to look like their mums and the little boys want to look like their dads. And I always kind of think
God,
that with the
how
Gucci, but I think that with the Gucci shopper, they're trying to get a young girl who wants to look like her mum
I
to
just
buy into
definitely
it.
didn't want to look
What, for example, me wanting to look the photos of my mum in the 70s.
Yeah, I
kind of
think
thing.
a bit like that.
Well, I think
sense
it's
of-
just, you know what, when you're super rich, you don't want to break boundaries, I don't think, for the most
Yeah.
part. There are exceptions to this rule. You just want to look great and
Yeah.
rich, basically. And this is not showy so far. It's, you know, it
Yeah.
is, but it's slightly subtle, but it's a nod
a
going.
bit of a see-through moment. A bit of nighty.
I love that lace up, the fact that it's undone.
Yeah.
Because that's sexy, but that's also weirdly kind of romantic and demure.
But
I think it's quite demure. This
Yeah,
collection.
yeah,
So
yeah.
far that we never know what can happen, but you know, these are, and also very commercial. I
Yeah, it's
mean,
incredible.
Very, look
Yeah.
at that
jumpers that
t-shirt.
can go like crazy. I mean, t-shirt or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's knitwear, but
I mean, when you've got Gucci on Net-a-Porter, that's what you need.
yeah.
You know, pieces that just go like that.
And I like the way all the
This is quite
sexiness is
Houston.
offset.
It's thinking quite Houston. I think it's the suede and the colours and the cut now.
But if you think those boots with that dress really changed that look,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah,
if it had
not
been with a heel,
super high heels. And
it wouldn't have felt
strappy.
as modern. But to have it with
And
a
I
boot,
love also they changed a bit also the makeup. Normally the makeup has always been very heavy,
Very
and
heavy.
this is very clean. You know, very super simple ponytail.
But last season there were a
Yeah,
lot of
it's not an
jeans.
Uber
Last-
vamp, is it?
No.
Yeah, last season was so much denim as well, and I feel like this is a slightly new direction. For
But also the cruise
Gucci.
was a lot of
Yeah, a lot
denim.
of
I mean,
denim as
again, the
well.
panels, you know, trousers with the gold buttons and
But
flower
you know,
print.
they're like
Jeans on a-
super high profit on jeans, on denim.
Yeah.
You know, their jeans are like £400. I know, because I was going to buy a pair, but then I was like, what am I doing?
what am I doing with my
But you know,
life?
a good pair of jeans is
I know,
forever.
it's
Come
worth
on,
it,
you know.
yeah. No, they're
Everyone
not forever,
says that, but I
Oh.
don't know if that's true.
I don't think that's true
What?
because
Because your body changes so much and then they just stop suiting you after
yeah,
like 2 years. and
I
then-
don't think
Well, I
I've had a
never
pair
think
of jeans that
about
I've worn.
body
Yeah, but if they last, if they are good quality,
I do.
then and you keep them. Oh, nice glasses. The glasses last season were immense. I
Yeah.
loved them.
I loved last season. I want to see this season.
I know. I loved it too.
Do you like this,
This is
Bertie?
great that I'm
Yeah.
seeing watching live.
This
You
is
know, I
not
never do
from,
it
this
at
is
all.
not fashion for me, which
Yeah.
excites me on like a really
This is kimono
fundamental
print.
level. But yeah, it's good.
This is very comforting. That's what I'd say. It's not risky. You go,
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like I've seen this all before. This is, It's not, you know when you see something new, you're like, do I even like this?
It's not
But you
particularly
can see,
political.
Yeah.
you can see that going out of the, you know, of the shops. You can
Yeah,
see
yeah.
selling.
Was
I
like
mean,
a greatest
while, you know,
hits
up
collection
to 2
in
seasons
some
ago,
way.
it was, look, a jacket like that. Come on, you would
Yeah.
wear it. You would
But that's
buy it.
been in
Yeah.
Gucci collections so many
Yeah,
times
yeah,
before, and
yeah.
you kind of
You know, there are certain elements who are who come back, especially we've seen a lot of military already in New York, for example, a year ago.
But we're not talking about D squared, you know, when it's like they do something and it's so over the top, like you said, they're referencing their own selves, but in a really beautiful way.
Mm. I also like that some of it is a little bit kind of jarring, you know, some of those prints look kind of a bit bad retro and the jeans are kind of like mum jeans.
Right.
Marcus Almeida did jeans in that shape, didn't they?
Yeah, and it's good to see something that's not just
super sexy.
Well, not just sexy, but not super right. Because sometimes I think that doesn't feel that modern anymore when everything's a little bit too perfect.
Definitely.
And that's what's nice with this.
I'm quite liking the silhouette, actually.
Yeah.
I'm loving this silhouette.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
I know, nothing new, but
I want to see more of it.
It's a bit safer.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Well, I think it's incredibly sellable.
But I think it's daring in its own ways. The quantity of denim, I think that's a statement for a brand like Gucci to do, and real blue denim.
Guys, let's not forget, you know, when Gucci was created, it was a kind of sportswear. I mean, if you look at the picture of Jackie O wearing Gucci, they wear the denim and, you know, a long blouse with the, you know, with the Jackie O bag. I mean, that was the Gucci look. So it was made for sports in a way.
They're doing couture though, right?
Yes, she
so
done a little.
This kind of makes sense that all the denim and this is where the sales are.
Yeah. But I still think to see it presented on the runway, like we all know it be in the collection, but I think the overt casualness of this collection is what makes it feel new to me.
But it's so uncasual as well.
Yeah, no, it is. It's very luxurious, but you're so used to seeing kind of gown upon gown upon gown, and this is all like screamingly day wear, even just in the way it's styled. You know, that girl, she's got a shoulder bag.
Can I tell you something? I'm so happy that we see a bit of day wear back on the catwalk, because I'm so tired of seeing, you know, long.
Normcore, it's a thing.
Yeah, it is normcore. You know, I love it. I'm sorry, because, you know, we've been obsessed. You're all constantly gowns, and dresses and dresses.
And really
I'm already loving when I see separates.
Yeah.
Good for a trouser and a top. You know, that even going into a consumer mind, you know, that she can, when she buys it, that is very Italian.
Yeah.
When you buy a top, you just say, what can I style it with? Maybe with a skirt I had at Tom from 5 years ago, from 3 years ago.
Well, I mean, they're opened with a skirt. That's quite major.
Yeah.
There's like nothing more practical than that, really. And that sounded really sarcastic, but I'm totally being serious.
No, you're right. There's nothing, and also like stuff like it's. If you think when you're so used to seeing gowns with big slits up the side and cutouts or skirt, you're not going to flash anymore.
With that. Sorry.
No,
they never open with that. I'm sure that we're going to get like some big
at the end,
chiffon floral numbers. You know, let's not forget they present an entire collection the whole time.
This is fabulous.
Yeah, this is amazing.
I love that green and the leather with the lace.
Amazing.
And on Anya.
The shoes are really, really good as well. I really like those ones. They're great.
But also the shoe way, you know, there are not many styles. There've been that chunky heel with at the end the boot, no? The ankle boot.
Do we see the signature of a stylist here? I don't think we do.
I think it.
Maybe in cleaning the.
In the way that you're talking about it,
or just
being
like
someone who brings bags in, we
snack.
haven't seen it. Have you seen accessories? Not really.
We've seen a couple of bags, you know, the crocodile and, you know, the signature.
But they look quite natural.
Yeah, it feels like they're quite sort of consistent in slick.
Whereas often it can look like a bag plonked.
Well, when they're like holding 3 bags, they're like, it's a trend.
You're like, no, it's not.
Do you want to refresh it? Come on, Gucci. Maybe leave it small.
Yeah, I can do. Sorry.
Thanks, love.
I have to sit on the floor.
Yeah, we'll look at pictures afterwards so we can get a.
Ooh,
that's cute.
Kimono glamour.
Really cute.
But I think it would be weird doing on the outside doing all this creative philanthropic stuff and having kind of overtly weird messages going down the catwalk as well. You know, this is for a woman who really,
I think there is the moment of gowns, no? Because she always has the show in parts.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the first part finishes
and it goes dark.
Evening wear or whatever. But we'll see.
But
that is actually an heritage from Tom. Tom was the first person to do that as Gucci. I know.
No,
that's it.
My God.
But I'm really surprised by that. Like, it's so casual.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the new Gucci, the new era of
Yeah.
Gucci, guys.
Yeah.
But what's going to draw in a younger customer more than doing something that's not just
I was
like...
going to clap like I was at a fashion show.
5 claps is enough.
I really like it because at least it's got a vision and it's proposing something new. You know, it's not... There's pieces in there that I don't... Some of the ideas I don't think worked as well as the others, but I do think it's nice just that this at least has a real solid idea that really builds on last season as well.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, I loved it. And also, I think it's been well edited. Well, I'm Italian, you know, so I need to like...
I know, but I love that, actually.
It's been very well edited. So I'm sure there's been someone there to...
There's a distinct lack of sexiness, as we discussed heavily before.
Is
we
there?
wasted all our time talking about sex.
In that overt way. You know, do you look at the length?
Trashiness.
Yeah, but
let's not get those two confused. There was definitely sexy pieces in there. Like there was a kind of like a culottes all in one with boots, which was like super sexy.
We talked about the Tom Ford legacy of sexiness.
Yeah.
You know, sexy is whatever is
to that
own woman.
But I worry that sexiness is going to become a bad word in fashion, because this is what I was trying to say as well with the Tom Ford thing. Is it's like I don't have a problem with collections that are sexy or even collections that show women's bodies, but it's the trashiness and the codes that built off. And I think with this, it's a sexy collection, but it's not overt and it's not erotic and it's
not cashing in on
on
female form or sex sales. But this is not paying that.
I find it very demure, very.
Does remind me of a mum, though, doesn't it?
It's very boho chic.
Boho chic Italian way.
But if you think there's one. Like boho chic feels so passé.
I know.
It's been ready for a revival.
I didn't want to say
it's
but
been back for like 2 seasons.
But I don't think back to the extent of that where it's like bad boho chic. You know,
you need to have a brown hat.
Yeah, exactly. You need a brown. Like there were like fur gilets in there and stuff. It was like really like like the belt over like a caftan
and the palette as well with the burgundy.
Yeah,
maybe that's what because Kate's always done boho chic, and perhaps. You know, her being this is the bigger plan because she is the Gucci woman at the moment. Even though they haven't styled her like that at all in the campaign, but whether she'll be the campaign woman for this next season as well.
Do you think this collection will surprise people? Because it surprised us, I think. Did it?
It surprised us, yes. Surprised me for sure. But if you look back at the last season, this is a good. Step, a good continuation. Can I say continuation?
Yeah.
Does it make sense in English?
Yes,
a continuation of what she started to change last season. So maybe she wants to give a different take on Gucci. So forget about again the sexiness of which we're already bored of this word, and then maybe get into this new era of Gucci. I mean the bags are fabulous. I love the shoes. I love denim. It feels more like actually didn't feel that luxury.
I think if you saw the pieces, we're seeing them tiny. I think with all the embellishment and the fur and there's the suede boots, the sort of long suede boots. That doesn't feel necessarily luxury, but when you look at them, you'll be like,
I mean, the way they're made are fantastic. But that's what I say. I would consider like a boho chic Italian way.
It delivered to exactly what I thought it would be, regardless of from last season, I don't think about it as the Tom Ford thing at all. You know, but I do think about it as a presentation of always something slightly retro. But at least they do it really, really well.
It's interesting when we talked about the kind of the boho-ness thing, and it's interesting that we were kind of briefly talked about Saint Laurent when we were looking at Tom Ford, because there is also an element where I feel like luxury has become kind of tied to this idea of undoneness. Because you know, Saint Laurent, it looks like vintage, kind of bohemian, retro,
like
slightly
conspicuous spending.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I think we're seeing that again with this. It is that kind of undone. To it. Do you know what I mean? It didn't look polished. It was luxurious, but it still felt.
I think it was more polished. I would consider this more polished than Saint Laurent.
Definitely more polished.
Without a doubt.
That look is literally, for me, it's wrong. But you know, apparently it goes very well and it sells very well. But at least here I found it more.
See, we talked last time about salon and about what woman this is and about attracting a younger customer. See, I don't think it is. I think, Frieda's instinctively designing for a woman of around her age.
Yes.
They have the money and that's what they want to look like. It's just fresher and a nod to youthfulness than that old diva.
Yeah,
you know?
But maybe she's changing too. You know, sometimes, guys, we have designers who change
Well, she's just, didn't she become a mother quite recently?
Yeah, she
yes,
had a baby.
That's what it is. It's
while
like
you were
that
saying
looser,
that, I was just considering. I said,
yeah.
you know, maybe before that.
Well, she
it
said
was
that
more
about
like,
the collection with all the mesh, which everyone thought was really, really sexy, but there's also an element of it being kind of stretchy in sportswear and like gowns over a sports bra, which was
she
quite
feels that now maybe that's her way to go. You know, the difference between a man designer and a woman designer, that mostly women design for themselves.
Do you agree with that?
Look,
I'm just interested in this kind
do.
of male designers design this way, female designers design that way.
Well, I just feel like...
I mean, at the end of the day, you know what you can wear. You are there. I mean, I was discussing this with someone the other day about a certain show in London that actually I was expecting something amazing and I didn't. Because I said, you know, this is a male designer with no women around him. And I said, you know, this man design on the paper is amazing, it's fantastic, you know, the most researched fabric, the most incredible cuttings. But if you put that on a woman's body, she can't even sit down. At that point, sorry to be so banal, but at the end of the day, clothes have to be worn by women.
I
still have to sit and live and walk and do it.
To the way that I see it is, when men design for women, they're creating a fantasy of women. And women design for women, they know what you're going to want to wear, or at least they know what they want to wear. And like Phoebe Philo, like Stella, they live that life, and then other women go, well, I'd quite like to buy into that.
I worry sometimes that excuses. There are women who I think design in a way that's just as unsympathetic to women as men who design for a fan. And I worry
it's more difficult to think about that.
Yeah, it is. I think that scares people more than
Sarah
the idea
Burton
of a man.
has changed the scariness of McQueen.
But I think,
it's softer. It's softer because she can see that. I think that is. But also, how many male designers we see they've got a muse or a stylist. I mean, Karl Lagerfeld with Amanda Harlech, for example. Amanda tries the things on.
Christopher Kane and Tammy Kane.
Christopher with Tammy. I mean, there are you need always an element. I suppose that's what I feel anyway, because you know, you can be an artist. You can draw whatever you want in the most ridiculous thing. McQueen, the first times, it was kind of hard. Amazing, super creative, but was kind of hard to wear it. So I don't know, but I suppose Frida is now embracing that world of maybe this is the actually reality. She must say this is actually my real world, and that's what I want to give as a message.
But I think that goes back to the normcore thing and stuff that we talked about with couture, where at Dior you saw normal clothes, really super expensive normal clothes going down the catwalk. These are super glamorous normal clothes.
What's your take on it, Bertie?
My initial reaction is there are pieces that you would inherit, not necessarily fall in love with and buy immediately. So it's more subtle. Obviously I'm coming at it from somebody who could never even dream of affording it, so the only way that I would ever get any of those shapes or think about wearing it is if I somehow procured it through some distant relative. It's definitely not playing the must-have now fashion game that we saw a lot of last season, 2 seasons ago. It's kind of taken a new direction.
That's really interesting talking about that must-have now, because you're right, with that collection even just in terms there weren't that many pieces that are kind of really recognisable as key individual pieces.
No.
That was a collection, that was a vision, but it wasn't a case where you're like, oh, everyone will have that shoe or everyone will have that bag, and everything was quite pared back.
I'm thinking still of the culottes, the skirts. I think that is what stands out to me. That's kind of like practical, glamorous, and it's something that you would find somewhere. You wouldn't need to have those ones specifically. You would be like, oh, are they the Gucci ones or are they a vintage? You know, exactly.
It's not doing that thing where it's like, oh, it's a Moschino bag.
Exactly.
Are we in the years, I mean, are we living a moment of that we want to scream at catwalk presentations? I mean, do people want to see, oh my God, you know, wow, blah, blah, or now it's become almost fashion shows?
I feel like it's become such a bankable formula
it really has
to make things where everyone has to buy them immediately and so for that season. And
when I was in the space yesterday, we hung around after the presentation and the shows go on and the people come in and the people go out and the shows go on and people come in, and it feels very tired. And I know we've been talking about this for a while now, but it does feel like we need to shake it up, and normcore is interesting, but it's not enough. We need like super creative, super interesting designers showing in different spaces in different ways to really do something interesting. And London is a good place to have that. Maybe not necessarily.
Do you think we just need less shows altogether? Because that's something.
Would be nice, wouldn't it?
That's something I think sometimes with Gucci, and not with. I did like this collection, but particularly with the men's. And last season was not a strong season for the men's, and you did kind of look at it and think this. Why not just have this in a showroom? And do we think sometimes that, as well as it needing super creative people to show in interesting ways, it also needs a lot of people just to stop showing?
But we'll never have.
But why should they?
You know what?
Everyone should deserve their whatever, however they want to present.
Yeah, I like showroom presentations. I mean, they're the best way to see clothes.
Completely.
By close by, you can really touch them. You can get an idea, and see maybe. I would rather have showroom presentation with mood boards, the designer talking through. But remember, a fashion show sells images, makeup, beauty, inspirations for 6 months.
And Gucci are pushing their cosmetics.
For every single designer. I mean, those images are gonna last for 6 months in every single magazine of the world.
Well,
to say, oh,
the
flowers, the things. I mean, magazines or whatever. So it is it's a very expensive production, but it works as an image for certain designers, I suppose. But although I'd rather have only showroom presentations.
Yeah, that's interesting. What do you think will happen, Bertie? What's the answer?
Future of fashion?
Yeah.
Yes.
Quick, easy question. And I'll just have a cough attack. What will happen? I am very interested in designers like Claire Barrow, who do tiny little, I don't know, this is not relevant to Gucci at all, but what really excites me is where you see amazing craft and totally unique pieces and quite limited collections, and it feels like there's a whole movement there as opposed to just a show. Like the groups that go there aren't just fashion press, but they're like friends and they're all part of the same scene, and it feels cool.
Authentic.
Like you want to be part of that, and that to me is what fashion is. It's inspiring. It's not just seeing clothes and wanting clothes.
And does that also feel, do you think, to a consumer, a wider consumer, also is slightly more luxurious than this? Because it's interesting, I don't know if you guys saw Business of Fashion just printed an extract from an interview with Frida that Surface had done. And they talked to her in that about sort of brand fatigue, and she says, well, we kind of have to sell, and she doesn't really answer it in a very direct way, but it did get me thinking about these brands that are everywhere and whether that in itself feels that luxurious to shoppers anymore. I think, even we saw that with the rise of handmade stuff.
Well, if you look at the Birkin bag, for example, that's why they have them. They have their handbags there. They just don't sell them to people. They want to say no because it creates that desire. And that's
but
always
with a
what
mega brand
fashion's
like
been
Gucci
about.
or Armani, you can't say no. It's everywhere. You can buy
But
Gucci.
You can withdraw. You can by putting the price points so high. Because if you look at this stuff, they are. It's
there will be.
It's not. Oh, I can just about afford to buy into it. It's like you've either got it or you haven't. And I think that's how they are omnipresent, but keep the desire going, because it's like that thing, like we said. You'll never actually go in there and buy it. So that
but then you will buy something else that is much cheaper. At the end of the day, it's the same message of a normal supermarket. I mean, it's created the image, go in there, and then whatever you buy, at least to have the consumer going into the shop, it's already a success, I suppose.
This is the concept which I have a problem with. For example, when Mulberry brought out their more affordable range of bags, and they had like a £695 handbag in the more affordable range, but then they also had this like £165 leather strap. I think it's actually kind of offensive to their customers to assume people will go in wanting a handbag and come out buying a little strap,
because they
which is still insanely expensive. I don't necessarily think that is, I think maybe before that was how fashion worked. You could buy a Chanel little credit card wallet and you'd be like, oh, I've got a bit of Chanel, this is great. But now maybe people don't really want that anymore.
Maybe not in the Western world.
Well,
but the new markets, remember
exactly.
they are what we were like.
That's
in the luxury things, we were 20 years ago, literally obsessed even by the mini, super tiny Chanel hair clip. And it's like, whoa, I've got a Chanel piece.
But what we're talking about,
now we are being more blasé, so
this collection is really copyable. They haven't, some designers really shy away from that. They're like, no, I'm going to put difficult, intellectual, you know, pieces that are not easy for girls in Topshop to go in and go, I'm going to do that look. I mean, this is Topshop all over in a way, but it shows that actually I think that the woman that can afford this wants to look younger as well. There's not going to be like, oh, the woman's not going to buy it because she wants to look cool and current, as well as the girls that are in Topshop going to go buy their culottes, and you know, this styling is going to be all over the high street.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see lots of bad neck scarves everywhere.
It felt
That's
younger.
Great.
It felt
Exactly.
younger
Yeah,
than
it felt
usual.
young, and last season felt really young.
Yeah.
I think even just in the hem, I know they're culottes, so they're not like a super mini, but even just in that kind of just above the knee, it does feel very young.
Very young.
And even there's something about a gown that, even though, you know, a lot of older women wouldn't want to wear a super slinky cutaway gown, that feels older than something with short.
No, I'm missing the
Gowns baffle
gowns.
me.
There wasn't a single long gown.
I can't-
I'm missing them. I missed them.
Did you?
I was expecting, you know, after the first,
They
okay,
weren't
let's
there.
see if at least 5 or 6 colourful gowns. They
But
weren't, no.
I think I think this is a mark. This is a mark of removing between couture and ready to wear.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. It's a message to say this is what Gucci should be now and then.
I just love that first look.
First look, I love.
And
I love
the suede coat is
You know,
Because
there's
that's all I
always
love about it. If you chop that look in half and you looked at the culottes, you'd be like, oh, that's like Marnie or something. You wouldn't think that it was
Chloe.
Yeah, Chloe, exactly. You wouldn't say that it was Gucci. It feels
I mean,
very...
that kind of 70s style, no? I mean, look at the suede chemisier, you know, the look number 2 is very 70s almost, no?
Oh yeah,
You know,
yeah,
to
totally.
you know.
I just don't think that bag has ever looked so appealing. You know, it's the kind of bag where you walk up Sloane Street and loads of people have those, and you
know,
look at them and
they've
you're like, oh,
made
that's
it.
really naff, and now I'm like, I
Yeah.
really want it.
What amazes me of Gucci in the years to go, I don't know how many years, you know, Gucci has been going on, maybe 30, 40, 50, maybe no, 80, 100 years or whatever, sorry.
ages.
As a luxury house.
And you know how many times we've seen that green and red stripe and the Gucci logo coming and going and back and forward, and it always fascinates me how,
However,
you know,
it's not what happened to Burberry. You don't look at. There's never been a time that you're like,
Ugh, yeah, don't want to see it.
ugh.
Yeah.
It's always been like, you know, because and you look at it now and like, it's like there was times where Gucci maybe wasn't like the.
But I
brand
think
you
it's
wanted to
because
buy into.
Gucci have a few of those little things that they can, like Burberry had that check, but
And that
Gucci
was
has,
it,
you know, the red and the green, it has the
The
horse
double
bit,
G.
it has the
Bamboo.
flora print,
Yeah.
you know, like there's a lot of different
a lot of
codes that they can kind
Heritage
of
codes.
put in, and everyone's like, oh, they're doing their classics again, and the next season they'll do a different bit, and I think that, to me, that's why I find it very intriguing as a house, because there's all these really recognisable things, but they are very varied. So we're happy with this. Has it been a good way to
I
start
love
Milan
it.
Fashion Week?
Yeah.
I think yes, and you know, maybe this is awfully, as an Italian, I'm talking, you know, for Milan Fashion Week, maybe this is a bit of hope to get some day wear a nice, a bit more covered legs, because you know, Milan is always, you know, after Gucci is 1-star Europe. So maybe that's a good message to say, guys, calm down. Actually, ladies, calm down. You know, it's not all about boobs and legs, but it's
I think it
something-
goes back to, we could do the litmus test on, you know, the female designer versus the male designer and see how that works.
And the hemline.
Maybe we need like a, you know, that film test, the Bechdel test.
Yes.
Yeah.
We need to make a fashion equivalent for like
we
runway
should
shows.
do.
So you check off like how many nipples, like how many bum cheeks.
That'd be really, really, really good. Should
We'll
we
make
establish
that. Let's.
one?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the
definitely.
thing.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Okay,
that's
cool.
happening. Perfect. So we want to be legless in Milan, and then Bertie and I are going to make a Bechdel test for fashion. Brilliant. Welcome to Milan Fashion Week. Thanks, guys. Should we give her another round of applause to wrap things up?
Yes.